I think at this time, like Freddy was like maybe dealing with like some white guilt or something, so he wasn't like really trying to like kill black people.
He wasn't going as hard as he could have.
Yeah, he wasn't really going hard on the black people. Yeah, he was just like, dude, showing up like,
I've been thinking about racial equity a lot. Hello, welcome to Survivor's Ed, How to Not Die First in a Horror Movie. I'm Chris.
I'm Tawny.
I'm Miles.
We are two blacks and a Mexican, and we're here to welcome you to prime time, beautiful people.
Nice.
Because y'all are nice, kind people, and we don't say mean things to you. In sharp contrast to a character that we'll be talking about in today's episode. This is our season finale of Survivor's Ed, our first season of Survivor's Ed. This is episode 20. We had the idea for this show late last year, and just because we all love horror movies and wanted to talk about horror movies. And here we are producing episode number 20 of this show, and we have had such a good time like talking about a wide gamut of movies for this series. Just to reflect a little bit, we started with Anaconda. We talked about La Llorona before a lot of people even knew what that movie was. We talked about Deep Blue Sea.
Before it was Academy Award nominated.
Yeah,
we was on that shit early. We was on it early.
We were on ground zero, y'all. Almost kind of on ground zero. We talked about Ravenous, which was just a amazing left turn into cannibal country.
Oh yeah.
What I really loved about this season so far is that we have talked about a very wide variety of monsters and demons and sort of antagonists. Whenever I produced the audio version of this show and put it on the RSS feed, I do chapter titles, and I always say how to survive something. And it's interesting, I've never had to repeat what we had to survive. So it's like how to survive vampires, how to survive cannibals, how to survive, it was like how to survive giant snakes. It was like always something different. And so it just shows you how big the range of things.
I didn't even think about that. Like that's
yeah.
I know, it's cool.
Last one was how to survive Calvin. So
we've had maybe a couple how to survive crazy ass white people though. Like
true.
I mean, two of those.
Yeah, but there's subcategories, right? Like The Purge is probably the only one that was specifically just that.
Yeah. Right.
So in this week, it's how to survive Freddy Krueger. We are for the first time talking about a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I don't know if it's collectively true, but I think this is our favorite. It's my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
It's the best.
It's my favorite.
Aside from the first one,
the first one's amazing.
First one and the third one.
This week we're talking about Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, released in 1987, and starring Patricia Arquette and a awesome cast of teens who become warriors. John Saxon returns, Heather Langenkamp returns. This movie is, I think, for me, the definitive kind of Freddy movie. Like Nightmare on Elm Street introduced the world, but this movie to me really got to that point where it mixed a little bit of the meta humor that Freddy has become known for with still having the strong horror kind of dark vibe. And it's a bunch of kids in essentially an asylum, and Freddy is terrorizing them. I think that's kind of the Cliff Notes overhead sky view of the plot. What is the situation in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors?
Yeah, that's it. So, like, Kristen, played by Patricia Arquette, she's our girl. Like, she's our main girl. And we open on this, like, bizarre paper mache, like, this really intricate... And I think I've did paper mache once in my entire life. Yes, and every single time I start this movie, I'm all, what the fuck is this again? And it's like her making a paper mache house. She's trying to stay awake. I think that's the point. That's a little bit,
yeah.
And her mom's like So Patricia Arquette, and she is trying to stay awake because she's having these horrible dreams. She goes to the asylum, and all the other kids there are also having these horrible dreams. And that's kind of the whole premise of these movies, is that these are like the descendants of... So Freddy Krueger was... In the original movies, they say a child murderer. When they redid them, they made it clear that he was a child molester. And they talked about... I remember watching something where they're like, they couldn't say that in the original movies. It was too much. But he killed a bunch of kids, and something went wrong in the trial, and somebody violated his rights, and the trial got thrown out, and the parents got together, and they killed... This is just the Freddy mythology, which I'm sure most people are familiar with. But anyway, like, it's always, like, the case that somehow this is the last set of Elm Street kids. And that's the case here. And they're all having nightmares about the same guy, and nobody believes them. Until Nancy comes back. Nancy comes in, and she's actually pretty chill about not being like, yeah, this guy's real. Like, at first she's supposed to be, and it's that classic, like, the psychologist, Gordon, is that his name? Dr. Gordon, who's like the worst psychologist in the whole world.
He's a monster.
He's a monster. I don't want this grad student.
He killed himself because he was weak. He was a coward. What?
Fucking Bill Maher the second, and he looks like Bill Maher, and like, he doesn't even not look like Bill Maher. Like, you can't look at him and not think Bill Maher. And she's like, it's like, oh, this grad student's coming in. She can't tell me. So yeah, Nancy like bonds with the girls. Patricia Arquette's the main girl, and she has this gift that like Nancy had of being able to pull. And this becomes this becomes a thing in the rest of the movies, is like, and it's always, of course, a girl who has this ability to pull people into their dreams. One by one, Freddy sort of tears through the group, which is one of the bizarre things, or I think that one of the interesting things about this movie is that the most disturbing death in the whole movie is the very first one. And I think that, I don't know if they knew they were doing that on purpose. We talked about this in our text, is like the puppet, where, and it's not even, for me, it's not the gore. Like, the gore doesn't bother me that much, because nothing in those movies ever is really, especially makes me like feel gross. But it's just that, and I think one of you, Miles, maybe you said it, the idea of just not being in control. This kid's asleep, the first kid is a sleepwalker, and like, that's his issue, and Freddy, comes into his room and pulls like tendons and shit out of his feet and his arms, and makes him into a puppet and makes him throw himself off the building. And this is where the Dr. Gordon's very special skills come into play, when he's trying to comfort the rest of the group.
Yeah, and for the record, that kid, as much as Gordon reminds you of Bill Maher, that kid reminds me of Sean Astin for some reason.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Sleepwalker kid. Yeah,
totally.
So a lot of
I was
doppelgangers
watching the
in this
second one, and the main girl in that one, she looked exactly like Meryl Streep for some reason. Like,
she really did. Yeah, she does.
Absolutely. Yo, what is
Yeah.
up with these movies, man? Like,
absolutely.
it's like getting lookalikes.
The bargain bin.
Totally. Yeah. Bill Maher.
Got like the Value
My
City
whole life,
version of like.
Right.
Or out here in California, the Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got those.
We got Dollar Tree. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But yeah, that death is like super. It's just disturbing. Like, I mean, it's disgusting. Number one, just because, like, I mean, he's like using his tendons in his body to move him, which is like, okay. And like you said, the fact that he just has no control over, you can't do anything. You're asleep. Is like, that's the worst thing ever. Is, like, which I don't know why they didn't have provisions or something set up, some sort of like firewall for this kid where,
everyone fails this kid. Like his roommates get up, they're like, hey, you.
Yeah,
it's
then,
really
like,
a commentary on the mental health system, like support.
Yeah, and then Kincaid is all like a dick about it, like not even like right. Like, oh well, why don't you help him out?
Have
like,
a nice walk, yeah.
It's like, okay, but yeah, that one is rough. Like I said, like this one has some of the better like kills, I think, though, and like Even the one, the girl with the needles is like, ugh. Like, yeah, like I just like how he turned that on her basically, and used, things that basically she wanted, like or maybe she didn't want, but this is something that is personal. Like the kills are like personal as hell. like the kid that was interested in the nurse, and like you turn that on him and make it personal. Like the kills are just dope on there. It's like, yeah, that, like this one, the one that got creative on this one, like, and he's just, I mean, like you said, I think this is the best Freddy. This is just where they kind of just understood what to do with this character, like the most. Like it's just it just made the most sense, and I don't know what happened after this, but like it's like they seem
I
like
think there was like they were trying to do the same thing over and over again, and it was like this was the first one. The second one's just bizarre, and we can maybe talk about that at some other point. But like, but this is the one where it becomes clear that the thing about Freddy is that he gets you based on some personal thing. And I think that goes on for the rest of the movies, to some, less successfully mostly, but like it's fun. Like it's fun and it's creative to see. Like everybody's like, how's he gonna kill this person? Which is a little bit grim, but it's like that's what you're sort of. And when I try to explain to people, because I'm not a huge slasher film lover. Like I don't love the Friday the 13th movies. Like they're like I could take them or leave them. Michael Myers. There's a couple in there that I want to see, but like in Texas Chainsaw, almost good, no interest mostly. In. Yeah, but like Freddy, even when they're bad, I'm still interested in seeing what they're gonna do. Like the way each one of these people is gonna die is fascinating and creative in various varying levels of successfulness, but fun, but fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think. This felt like a hitting of a stride, and like I think part of it too, the reason why it feels that way is because it seems like the second one was such a departure from what I think the character's original intent was, and I think it's part of what happens when a different creator takes over. With Wes Craven coming back, I mean, this was going to be his part 2. This is like what his part 2. This would have been part 2, right? And it feels more like a sequel to the first movie, in that you're bringing back our final girl from the first movie. You're bringing back the parent and sort of seeing like the tail end of that through line of like her father being who created Freddy in a lot of ways, this version of him at least, having to reckon with that. But then also like the new characters being, this is what we've talked about all season on this show, is like the movies we really gravitate to are the ones where the characters are clearly defined, where you can tell there was character mapping in this movie, where it was like Miles said, like this person, we want to sort of have this strong personality trait come out, and then show their death can sort of work with that, or their power can sort of work with that. I think with I think his name was Will, the puppet kid. He unfortunately, you don't get to see a lot of his character, but all you know is that he sleepwalks, and it's all you need to know.
But he also makes
for that
puppets.
First death to be effective.
Do you remember?
Yeah,
yes, he has the puppets.
Right.
Yeah.
He's creative.
And so you have enough there, even though it's very early. We barely get to really know him.
Yeah.
But not only is his death appropriate for the character that we do know about his character, but it's also effective because it's a universally scary death. Like, it's like loss of agency. Imagine marching to your death with no agency. That's terrifying. Whereas like some of the other deaths, like the nurse one, is so specific to that character that it's not like, I mean, obviously, like as a young boy, I was like, oh, that's scary. What if that happened? But like, but it is still very specific to the character, and you've kind of learned, that about him. He didn't die, but like that scene at least. So I really love that.
Though, you know what I'm saying? Like, at least that one, like the puppet one was never good. Like that was all bad.
Right. There is a lure. There's an allure to the
I'm sorry. I'm going to push back on that. She's a child molester, if that was the case.
Well, yeah, but to him, like,
tomato.
if we're talking about, if we're talking about the construction of the scene from his perspective, he's, it would be funny though if he stopped her and was like, "Well, hold on a second now."
There was did you guys, if you've seen, I think it might be in Never Sleep Again, like they show that like in some version of that scene, like they tried out giving her like a Freddy head, like putting Freddy makeup on her and like her big old fucking boobs with the Freddy head.
That was hilarious.
And it's the grossest thing
That's
ever.
more, and that is more of a like later in the series type of idea.
Yeah.
And so the nuggets of it were there. There was somebody on set that was like, hold on a minute, like holding some of these things back, because whoever that was gone later movies, because that's what it is. There's like this, it walks the line really well before it started to cross the line in future movies. Yeah. And that was the one other thing I wanted to say was like the horror, like the paper mache house at the beginning is such a iconic, like I remember that opening, like that's the opening I think of. I remember I barely remembered the first movie for several years. I don't know if I just saw this one a lot when I was a kid, but I remember the big scary paper mache house, the girls in the yard, the tricycle like melting, like that weird like sound design around it, and like all that stuff. It just created a really good atmosphere. For that stayed true for the rest of the movie, because the hospital is such a great setting.
It's disorienting, that house. There's like I was saying, there's something about it that I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it's just like this. It reminded me like when I was watching Hereditary the other day again, and I was thinking of the miniatures, like the miniatures.
Good. I just watched that again.
I know. I watched it a bunch of times. I've watched it a bunch of times, and even as fucked up as it makes me feel inside, But no. Like there's something about that. Like there's something about that. The act of like creation and attempting to address and cope with things that are haunting you. And I was watching that and I was like, it's just such an interesting blend. It's such a cool and effective in Hereditary when they blend from you're watching what you think is a model to, and it just blends seamlessly into the narrative that we're about to see, the dominant narrative. Yeah. And it's not exactly that way in this movie, but I was thinking of that watching
There's
it.
some parallels, though.
It's definitely similar for sure. I was also thinking about a worse movie, New Mutants, which I didn't finish, but it pretty much is kind of this, like in a lot of different ways. Like,
oh no,
it's like kids like in a mental. They're trying to make it a horror, and like it's a bunch of kids like sent to this. Not a mental hospital, basically, a mental hospital. And it's this collection of kids like this, and, they're having these issues, basically. But they're mutants. It's like X-Men stuff, though. But it's like trying to be scary, but not scary at all. But I'm like, when I was watching, I was like, why does this feel like Nightmare on Elm Street 3? Like they were trying to, maybe they were trying to, maybe they got some vibes from it, but it's just. Like,
I mean, if they didn't, they should have, to be honest, because like there is a good one-to-one compare. If you know anything about the New Mutants, there's an easy one-to-one comparison of taking this movie and just saying let's do it, but with mutants, and it actually could be good. But from everything I've heard about,
because they have powers in this too, they like it. That's why I was like, what the hell? And I was like, did they just watch Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and make this movie? Because it's just so I'm not familiar with like the New Mutants comics or whatever, but I was like, this is super just similar as hell.
Similar, like,
yeah.
They revisit this
really bad,
to put a button on that.
It's bad, like it's really bad. I was like, damn.
Oh no,
dang, man. I hoped it would be at least decent,
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm sorry, they revisit, like, I feel like they revisit this context? I don't know, do you call it a context setting? Like, in part 6, Freddy's Dead? Like, it's again, is it that one? I'm thinking of Freddy versus Jason, where they're in a mental hospital again, and, like, the kids are all, there's, like, those rows of sleeping kids. Is that Freddy versus Jason?
I can't remember. Wait.
That's Freddy versus Jason.
Freddy versus Jason, is it?
It is. Yeah, it is. Actually, now that I'm remembering it. But, like, yeah, they sort of revisit the mental hospital context. I feel like this series really just innovated, or at least like made commonplace, like, or made things that are now like we would look at and go, oh yeah, like that, the mental hospital montage, or like what's the ensemble, the mental hospital ensemble, you know, is kind of like a thing now that's not unusual to see. And that this movie was at the forefront in some ways. I was thinking also about, and maybe I kind of want to talk about this a little bit when we get into the, you know, the homie part or homie piece. Like, I remember starting to read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest like a long time ago, maybe like in my early 20s, and being and I don't know if this is a fair judgment, but like at the time being really turned off by. Have you guys ever read that book? Or I've never even. I've seen the movie a little bit.
I haven't.
But the sort of way that the orderlies are described in that book is really sort of not comfortable to read. It's like they're very clearly like uneducated black men who have been hired for their viciousness, and their willingness to follow orders. And I remember starting to read that book and being like, I don't feel good about this, and thinking about like this movie, and it was very interesting, and again we'll talk about this maybe a little bit more, but like what they did with the orderly character in this one.
One of them.
Definitely,
One of them, yeah.
He definitely wasn't like that. Kincaid was. I mean, we just talking about the black characters.
Well, let's make this a official transition since we're like getting there anyway.
Sorry.
So this is, if you're new to the show, welcome, and this is a section of the show that we call "You Good, Homie," where we in our horror movie check in on our people of color. In this movie, we have two characters of color that are noteworthy in Kincaid and our orderly Max. Played by Larry Fishburne.
Yeah, Larry Fishburne.
So he hates being called Larry too, like,
which is funny that he went by that for years. It's like okay, although maybe he didn't. Maybe they just forced that on him. They're like, Larry. But so do we want to start with Kincaid, or no? Maybe we should start with Max, since he's not as a minor character.
Yeah, he's just kind of there. That's so random that was Lawrence Fishburne.
That's to me what makes him noteworthy. Like, I wonder if he hadn't been Lawrence Fishburne, if we would have been.
Because he doesn't return in the series again or anything. Like, he's just some one-off.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's just such a, like, you know, it would have been, I feel, in 1987, so easy for this character to have been similar to those orderlies in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's, at least in the book, again. Like,
or the other orderly
brutish.
In this movie.
yeah, right, yeah.
Or like
that
brutish.
That guy's terrible, yeah.
And vicious, and just, oh God, that guy. Yeah, Predator, that guy. But but you know, brutish and violent, and he's like gentle. Like, he's more gentle than the fucking psychologist. Even the woman psychologist, like he's the most he's the one that seems to actually give a shit about the kids. And like he doesn't maybe make, like, you know, Welcome to Prime Time, bitch. That whole scene is like he lets her stay up when he probably shouldn't have, and should have made her go to bed, but like he didn't fucking know Freddy was lurking in the television.
He's an adult in a Freddy movie, yeah.
He's an adult in a Freddy movie. But he like, at no point in the movie do you see him like treat the kids as though they're like pieces of shit, which is like what you might expect in something like this from a black male character, like, which is shitty, you know. But like it's, when I watched it again recently, I was just like, oh yeah, like it's fucking Larry Fishburne, and he is this character that's like a good dude for the most part. Like, he's trying to do right, and that's not anything you can say about a lot of the adults in these movies. And I just think it's noteworthy, you know, for that reason, if for nothing else.
Yeah, he's definitely the most understanding, probably out of that. Even like you said, even more than the like the counselor that's supposed to be helping them. Like, he's giving them horrible advice. Like, I wouldn't listen to anything that he was saying. Like, and you know, he's just. I feel like Lawrence Fishburne's character is just trying to make their stay there a little more comfortable. Like, he knows they're going through whatever they're going through, and he can't fix their problem. He doesn't, that's not his job. But at least while they're there, he's trying to make it somewhat comfortable
to take care of them.
Yeah,
take
like because
they're kids.
they're going through. Yeah, the kids. They're going through whatever they're going through. Like, because I mean, it's a bunch of kids are committing suicide. So it's like, yeah, this, like the last thing they need is to like be told,
yelled at about how weak they are.
Yeah.
Well, which one of you, I can't remember, like, it was like, you're like, this is what we used to say about suicide? Like,
Gordon is awful. Like,
Terrible.
after Will, from what they understand, they think Will has killed himself, and his response as a trained psychiatrist is in a group full of young people who are all potentially on suicide watch. He was weak. He gave up. He was a coward. He's trash. Like, he was like, bro, like, whoa.
he let us all down.
Yeah, he let us all down. It was like,
Exactly.
Doc,
what I
you
needed
good?
to hear
Are you
on
good,
Suicide
Doc?
Watch,
Like-
right. The exact words I want to hear on Suicide
He's
Watch.
like
Right.
furious when he's saying it too. He's not
so
even
mad.
He's not even remotely calm or like trying to be a calming presence.
And it'd be one thing if they sort of fixated that as like him having an emotional reaction, and then but
Yeah.
the movie is not saying that. The movie is saying that that's his clinical opinion, because if it was his emotional reaction, they would qualify it later with some sort of like, him saying something about like, I shouldn't have said that or whatever. Nah, it's just like, that's just that's just the truth. It's like,
The truth.
it's
Like,
just like,
oh,
no, it's not.
Yeah, that dude sucks, man. He's terrible.
sure.
And he looks like Bill
He was
Maher.
bad.
Like,
And I
he
hate
just-
that. That's the one thing I hate, is that they made him kind of the hero of the movie in the end.
And then he looks like Bill Maher.
Yeah,
Is
and he
that-
looks like
I just
Bill
can't get
Maher
over
on
it.
top of everything. Well, I told you that was the one thing that pissed me off, was like that he was like the thing that saved them. Like, what? Why? Like, what's the point of them unlocking their Encarna or whatever the hell they did, and like
They're Arcana. Yeah.
that reference there.
Right.
Like what's the point of them unlocking that if like they're not even the people
They
that
don't
defeat
use it to
Freddy?
defeat
Like,
him.
what's the point of
Yeah.
that? Like, because they all are supposed to be able to utilize that. This girl has the ability to bring people in and out of dreams, which at first when they like introduced, it was like, yeah, in my dreams I can do this, and then she did like a cartwheel, and I was like,
That's
yo,
it.
your dreams are trash, motherfucker. I can do that right
Can
now.
nobody
like,
fly? You can't
right?
fly? Like,
I did that on the way
my
up here.
fucking-
Like, what do we?
In my fucking dreams, I'm Dark Phoenix.
Yeah,
Hey,
right.
there you
Like,
go.
And then even
Yeah.
the other girls, like, in my dreams, I have knives. I have shit that you could have out here in the real world.
She goes, I'm
Like,
beautiful and bad. And I'm like, you could
I'm
also have a
You coulda
mohawk
do-
in reality.
You could have easily did that shit before you came up here to your
you know what?
hair
It's
and
kind of
got access
This
to
is
knives.
really this is a multi-layered examination of self-esteem, because it's like, oh wow, these kids really didn't dream big. We gotta
Yeah.
work with these kids on that.
At least like the other ones, I was like, oh, okay, he has wizard powers. Like, might come in handy.
Nebulous
I don't know,
wizard
like,
powers,
Because that's
yeah.
super strength.
Wizard powers
yeah.
are good.
Wizard
Super
powers are
strength
solid.
is fine. Yeah, I mean,
Why did he look like a
You know.
creepy ass like Stephen King to me though? Like as a kid,
yeah.
look like
Very
creepy
much.
ass looking like.
He had a Stephen King. No,
He
he
had a
just looked like
Stephen King
Stephen King's
vibe.
creepy looking, dude.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
he just looked
definitely
like
creepy.
Stephen
And
King.
wait, Joey's fucking big dream was big boobs. That was his entire dream. Like,
I mean,
that's
look.
all he had going for him.
Hey, listen,
He's a
when I was
teenage
kid, I
boy,
mean, wait,
know.
what do you want from me? Like, I'm just, it's like,
If we're being real, like, yeah, like it's absurd
Boobs- boobs
that
in the
there
face.
isn't more of that in this.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
so
I
it's,
just, you know-
like he had the
Yeah,
he had the,
Kincaid.
at least strength, like power of which I still don't like. He actually interesting. Like when we were like talking about just the characters and like things about them that like help you understand their personalities and like their the archetype or whatever that character is. I don't really know what his thing is before he gets the strength. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, he's got strength now. Before that, he's just like a black dude that says shit. Like he's not really like.
And but this is the fucked up part, Miles. Yes, that is a personality. In the world of 1987 horror movies, like that's all. He was the angry black kid, and that's all he needed to be. Because he
didn't even. I don't even know why he was there. Like he was like, wait, why was you tried to kill yourself?
He was a troubled youth.
For some bullshit, for just being pissed off at the world.
That's being black. Yeah, he was black.
Right. He was just black, and they were like, "Oh, clearly he has mental health issues." I mean, like, look, and that was the thing. Yeah, he was kind of a little bit of comic relief. He's a little bit of, there are some elements, definitely this character that could fit into your favorite movie is racist episode as well, because it was just like, oh, okay, he's just over here to be like, the sassy black friend who has something witty, like mildly witty to say.
Yeah.
And but what I do love about one is that they didn't kill him in this one. At least he survives this movie, and he gains strength.
And
he
a snazzy
gains
new
community.
Outfit.
Sure. And he sure. Yeah. And this was pre-Desolation Williams, so yeah, I mean the bar, but and I didn't honestly every time I watch the movie, he's not a character that I'm crazy about, but it is nice to see, especially in a movie that in that era, a black guy survive, be strong, and all that.
Especially
yeah.
Like, I mean, this is the whitest white girl you could imagine. Like, this is the whitest a person can look. And like, Patricia Arquette's like blonde, like blue eyes, just a bit pretty, and her, and I always, she's survived. And I should probably check this, but I feel like, several of the teenagers making it was not a common thing. It was usually like the one last girl, or like maybe
final
her
girl.
and the boy, the final girl. But like it's her and Kincaid and Joey, and Joey's got some other shit going on or whatever. But there's something about that trio that's really appealing. Like they're just it's an unexpected combination of survivors. Like what even archetypes. And Kincaid would have fit into maybe like the first guy to die archetype just for by the virtue of being a black male, but like other than that, like it's an interesting combination of survivors, and it's kind of like I like to think about what that means, or what it's interesting to think about what the movie makers were trying to say with that.
I mean, it's possible that Kincaid is like the precursor to all those Ice Cube roles that we love. I mean, think about it.
To Desolation.
You know what I mean? Like
they
non
were writing for Ice
sequiturs,
Cube, yeah.
like tough black dude who just says stuff like that may or may not have been in the script. Like, and his power at the end is that he's mad strong and he lives. That's Ice Cube. Like, that's literally Desolation Williams.
You know what? Is like that always too with the black characters in like horror movies. Typically, like generally, there's especially like when they started to introduce like rappers into like that role. They always are like not really scared of anything like other shit. Right. They're like, what you a monster? Man, I'm a like wait, what? You not scared of this? Like they're never afraid of like whatever the monster is. They're just like whatever. Like, oh, okay, yeah, monsters exist. Like they're okay.
They're like weirdly mad about the situation.
Yeah, they just like turn into their like rap persona or whatever. And they're like they'll like just fight because they're from the hood or whatever. Like I guess. Yeah. So they've seen worse than a monster in the hood. I don't know. Like
it is part of the toughness sort of stereotype / somewhat of a reality in terms of like I think about even like this is kind of weirdly becoming a season in review, because I'm thinking about LL in Deep Blue Sea, and how like he was obviously had moments where you saw the fear, which is cool, but he also has the you killed my bird scene, and like he has these like kind of tough guy moments and things that implausibly he survives,
earthy
right?
quality, like that earthiness.
Yeah, and
That like specifically,
that shows up, in a lot of black men in these kind of movies. You're right.
That shit is fake as hell. I know some
yeah.
super hard ass motherfuckers that see a spider and they scared as hell, like
Yep.
or a wild animal or something. Like, man, get that shit out of here. What is that? Like a sea creature, like a squid or octopus or something. Like, man, get out of here. Like, motherfuckers in the hood is not they might not be scared of other like dudes in the neighborhood, but like
a straight up
introduce
monster?
Yeah, cut it out. Like, say, cut that shit out. Like, yo, you scared, dude. Like, stop.
That's probably the product of, in many cases, non-white folk or white folks writing characters that are portraying people that maybe they don't have a lot of they haven't grown up with, or you know what I mean. Right. Like there's a disconnect
not scared
there
of anything.
that just says like, yeah, let's like.
Well, no, that's the stereotype though. Is like that, like, and you hear this over and over again.
Hard.
Superhuman. Yeah, being super literally
horde,
like
super horde.
When they do fucking studies on this, a disturbing number of people think fucking black people are superhuman. Like a disturbing number of people.
Yeah.
You know, and I just feel like that. You know, like, but and
that's so
over and
counter
over again.
to. Yeah, I mean, it's such a weird dichotomy between that but then also thinking that we are less than too.
Mm-hmm. Cognitive
I mean,
dissonance.
In the face of Freddy Krueger or whatever, or Michael Myers or Shark, Snake,
something magical and powerful. Oh, a black person, they're magical
like,
too.
Right? Yeah, y'all both got powers. Like,
fight it out. Get in that ring there, boy. No, I you know, it's funny. It's like, and Kincaid's role is kind of, he's there to kind of. I wonder. I'd be curious to learn about his character and why he was written the way he was, but there is an element of it that seems to be. Well, no, I just mean the fact that he like is there at all, and it's just like, maybe Wes Craven wanted to say that, like, I mean, because you think about it, he also did People Under the Stairs, and like I think about what Wes Craven wanted to communicate. He definitely had a lens on trying to say something about race and socioeconomic status and all that kind of stuff throughout these movies he was making around similar periods of time. And then maybe that was sort of, I think this was before People Under the Stairs. And so definitely. I could imagine this being the first step of like, you know what, I'm going to have a tough black dude in this movie to show people that black people, you know, I can just see in his head maybe that thought was there and he thought he was doing something cool and progressive. And to some extent, I'm digging it, but
kind of, because typically they would just die. They would just get killed in most of these. So, and they would be incapable of defending themselves, basically. They would just die immediately.
And I think, I don't know if I'm right about this, but like, I feel like there's some very pointed acknowledgement that Kincaid gets solitary all the time. And I'm like, I think there's some statement that's there. Maybe it got wiped down a bit. Like maybe like there was something there before. I don't know anything about this actually, but I'm just thinking there's traces there of something that's trying to be said, but that's just not emerging fully. You know, in this character.
There's probably some margin notes about his character that didn't make it into the movie. Yeah.
He seemed less like one of the kids that like was trying to commit suicide and was just one of them kids with behavioral problems that they was like, just send them. Like, I know when I was going to school, like in the city in Chicago, like CPS, like the kids that were bad, they would send them all to the same place. They couldn't go to the regular school. And when you got in too much trouble, they would just send you to Pace. Like you would just go to that school, like where all the kids are just, the statistics go, like all the kids that are just like the system just is like we can't do nothing for them. Like they just
the
bad.
Catch all.
Yeah, he just seemed like that. Like they were just like, man, he won't do his homework. Send him to a mental institution. Like he just seemed like that.
Like, that'll show him scared straight type situation.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Because I mean,
Well,
it seemed
Everybody,
like he was.
no, I
everybody
think
else,
he was having Freddy dreams, but like everybody else in there had like a way worse problem than just
That's
being
true.
pissed off.
definitely.
You know,
yeah.
like we had the sleepwalker who's maybe suicidal. Kristen looked like she tried to kill herself. You know, like there's what
mean,
the
he
other
was
girl
probably-
Taryn was like a heroin addict. Like there's like he
Right.
was probably just defiant. You know,
and violent, maybe, possibly. I don't know. I mean, and
Just
just the idea that
can
he's probably
you
more
sit
on the
down,
harm
please?
to others side of the spectrum than harm to
Right,
self
like you
type of
beat
thing.
somebody up. Like,
Right.
can you please sit down? No. All right, send him to the mental institution.
See, I picture my backstory for him is somebody walked in with a brown fedora and he just lost it and just gave him the business and he's like, man, that's that Freddy dude. That's that Freddy dude. And they was like, who? And they were like,
Freddy.
man, put this dude in the mental hospital.
What to do in the middle? I was like,
isn't he only 15? Sure,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Look at him
man,
though.
I came to school. I had this new fedora. My mom bought me a fedora for Christmas, and I wanted this sweater with stripes on there. And I just came to school, man. Dude started beating me up, man. Like, I put him in the mental.
He's
put him in
tripping.
the mental
Yeah.
institution.
So why don't we go ahead and since we've talked about Kincaid and Max, what's our rule for Nightmare on Elm Street in true fashion
So-
to close out our season?
To close out our season on a perfect loop, we decided that contrary to almost every other rule ever in every horror movie, that the way you survive Freddy is in part 3 of Nightmare on Elm Street, you be a black man. Because
Be a black man.
Just be black.
Our
As simple
two-
as that. Like,
our two homies do well. They do
come
well.
out.
We're proud of them. They come out all right.
Yeah, they come out on the other side of this alive, kicking, at least for the credits
Till the
of
next
this movie.
movie. Yeah.
Until literally the next movie. But as far as
no
we know,
other-
Max is still out there, though. You know.
yeah.
So.
I mean, there's no real other explanation for why he survived other than that. Like, because he didn't. We don't even know why he was there. He didn't
Right.
really like. He just got super
didn't do
strength.
much.
Like, he didn't
Yeah.
do much. Like, we don't know a whole lot about him. We just know
He
was a
wasn't
black
the
dude.
final girl. The
Yeah.
other two who sort of dramatically gained their powers both died. Joey gained his right there at the end, so he obviously was there to kind of have his moment there towards the end. So yeah, I mean, in all intents and purposes, Kincaid maybe should have gone along with the other two who kind of were the more pronounced power getters. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, hey, being black, that black skin, that skin you're in, brother.
I think at this time, Freddie was maybe dealing with some white guilt or something, so he wasn't really trying to
He
kill
wasn't
black
going
people
as
yet.
hard as he could have.
Yeah, he wasn't really going hard on the black people. Yeah, he was just dude showing up
I've been thinking about racial equity a lot.
just push him down real hard. I don't know if I should stab this dude just yet.
This doesn't feel right.
Because he was letting the black people off easy, up until this point.
Right.
Yeah, Freddie really is. He's really thinking about us.
He waited till Max left to take care of old girl.
That's what I'm saying. He's warming up to it. He didn't feel exactly right, just killing a bunch of black people.
I love it. Well, I mean, I dig that. Just a few. I mean, there was a few other marks I wanted us to hit around this movie. The return of Nancy. So I've kind of decided in my head that Heather Langenkamp is the thing you need to have a good Nightmare on Elm Street movie, because my 3 favorite movies in this whole franchise she is in, which is weird.
I really like her. I know you guys are not huge on Nancy. For me,
I like Nancy.
She's okay.
Yeah,
she's kind of frumpy. She's not a sex pot. In the original movie, the red herring girl we get is Tina, who's all sexy and oversexed. And then you meet Nancy, and she's kind of frumpy, and even though Johnny Depp is the hottest guy in the entire franchise, and is somehow her boyfriend, and she's very dowdy, like obviously is not using any hair products in the first movie. And then she shows up again with more hair products, looking a little hotter. And then New Nightmare is a joy. Like, if you like the Freddy movies, you have to see New Nightmare. And it took me too many years to get to it. But I used to really like her. And this is stupid, but in Just the 10 of Us, which was like was it a fucking, one of those, a growing pains spinoff or something like that? One of those shows, but she played one of this sister, and she was like the studious one, and I think I just identify with that, and I think of her in that way, and as somebody who was like a studious girl, in school, I've always loved her as the main girl in the original, as Nancy in this one, and then once again as the main girl, in New Nightmare.
I like her in the. It is true, like, when she's in it, the movie is better. But ironically, she's useless in this movie. She really does nothing to really help them. Like, she should have the upper hand.
Well, she's more of an exposition role.
Yeah, she's just kind of there, like, just because you want to tie up what happened last time. But she's not super helpful, like, as far as, like, I mean, none of them are, honestly, because Bill Maher saves them and anyways, like,
Bill Maher,
they didn't need to do anything.
Skeleton fight. He fought that fucking show. He fought that Jason and the Argonaut skeleton. Impressive.
Yeah, he did fight.
That was so funny. His like extra like green screen moves when he was getting hit. I was like, I mean, props, because like that's back in the day. It's like literally there was nothing there, and there was no real hope that what was there was going to look good. So like he had to sell it, and he did his best. But yeah, Nancy. No, I am like. I like Nancy as a character. I like Kristen more as a final girl. For some reason, I think it's because she captures, like, to me, Nancy always felt really, I don't know if wholesome's the word, but there's like in her performance, there's like a, she's the hero of the story kind of feel.
Yeah,
where
she's all like, gee golly. And
yeah, there's a vibe there that to me feels, not
she's
bad.
More wide-eyed.
Like, I think it works. Yeah, I mean, it works. But like, to me, in this movie, maybe it's just because I like this movie so much. But Kristen's terror and like that scene when she's like cutting. I think that's funny when she cuts Max and he's like, it's like he has this moment where he's like, I might punch her, but he stops himself and he's all. You know, and I'm just like, I don't know. I thought that was funny. But like that scene, her screams and like all that, like she has a really good, I mean, Patricia Arquette's a great actress, but like, and so she to me captures more of the visceral, like, terror. It feels more tangible maybe. Whereas Nancy feels more like a Harry Potter, Luke Skywalker-y, like hero girl kind of character.
Yeah.
That, like, I never thought in the first movies she might die.
Yeah, she's pretty obvious.
And
like
you just don't like. Whereas in this, like, to me, especially with Nancy's return, there is a little bit, and I think that was kind of clever too. And bringing Nancy back to me brought some fear to me that like you actually don't know who's going to live through this, because you could have all these kids die and Nancy kill Freddy and have that be the movie, right? Because she's introduced early enough to where she could become the main character, and so I just think it was well played. But yeah, no, they're both different in different movies, really good final girls.
Yeah, I like that they brought her back. I also like that they brought her dad back and turned him into a force ghost. I thought that was weird. Yeah.
Those are the best the best sparkles in all of movie
the way
history.
he kind of like the way he like floats in, it was such a like the most 80s thing in that whole movie. Yeah.
That's hilarious. When like the creepy Stephen King kid gets busy with like Freddy. I'm like, all right, this is whack. Like initially I was like, yeah, having the wizard powers is cool, but you having them is trash. Like, you're not cool. So
he didn't make effective use of the wizard situation.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, I mean this movie's great movie to end the season with. I think it's probably our most culturally popular, maybe. I can't think of a bigger movie than Freddy as far as horror movies go, you know. But this is a good one. If you have not like watched the Nightmare on Elm Street movies from like beginning to end, regardless of their quality, please do. Like, we'll probably do more. Like, in different ways, shapes, or forms. We'll probably end up talking about all of the movies in this franchise. Maybe we'll talk about like 4 through 6 in one sitting. But there's a lot going on in this franchise.
I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, yo, we should just, I don't know if it's a show or what, but I would like to do something where we watch series like of movies like that have like a bunch of them, like where we just do an episode on each,
a bunch of them.
On a bunch of them. Like, that should be
There's a certain joyousness to this franchise that, like, I think as somebody who like really enjoys like stand-up comedy, like just comedy and like just to sort of, these movies just always are fun. Like, again, no matter which one I'm watching, even when it's like, part 4 or 5 where it starts to get a little hazy. And like, when you think about other franchises, part 4 or 5, like, who gives a shit? Like, I can't watch, like, I don't even care anymore. But these continue to, even when they're not executed, seamlessly, like, there's still sort of a joy that you can tell the people who are making the movies are having with these characters, or specifically with the character of Freddy Krueger. Who's just what a performer! Like, what a fucking perform, and ad lib the line, right? The famous "Welcome to Primetime, bitch" was an ad lib. And like,
Robert
just
Englund, man.
Absolutely. My hero.
As far as like slashers and stuff go too, he's given a lot more to do and a lot more free reins to explore that character. I mean, how much exploration are you doing with like Jason, where you're just walking around slow as hell, or even Michael Myers, where you're just like walking around slow and like doing, it's the same thing pretty much every single time. He's allowed to do like something different with Freddy, like as far as like giving him some sort of personality that it changes. Sometimes it's for the better, sometimes it sucks because the directors, the direction of what the movie is. But I like that he has the most personality out of anybody, and
he's having fun. He's a psychopath who now has the power to enter people's dreams. Like, why wouldn't he be having fun, right? Like, that's the character. And I think Robert Englund captures that. And, like, as the movies go on, you're making sequels. Like, like, if he continues to sort of hang in the shadows, like, you lose a little bit of that with every time you make a sequel anyway. So it's like, why not give him more to say, more to do, more time to play with his food? Like, one of my funniest, like, Robert Englund things, is just because it was so goofy, was I think it was in Freddy's Dead when he has the kid inside the video game, and he just, like, almost looks to camera, and he's like, great graphics. So, like, silly. And he's just like, you just tell he's just having fun, and, like, I'm okay with it. Like, what are we here for? Like, if the movie itself around it is going to be goofy, like, at least give me a performance that I have some fun watching,
Yeah, definitely. I like how they got super dark with this one and, like, introduced, like, his mom that was, like, raped by, like, 200 people or some shit. I was like, nah.
100 maniacs.
100 maniacs, which this is not factually accurate.
That was, like, unnecessary.
It's just a scary, cool sounding thing to say. Bastard son of 100
That's
maniacs.
not possible.
It's like, first of all, like, why do you gotta throw in bastard like that? Second, like, he's only the son of one of them.
Of one of them, right?
Like, come on now. That's just you're the part of the problem. You're adding to the you're adding to it. Like, come on now. Because when you do that makes the nightmare more like visceral. Like, if you just said, hey, some bad stuff happened. That's the thing about Freddy, is like, you have to believe in it for him to gain his power. And when you give these powerful methodical stories to him, like, you just breathe fresh life into him. So yeah, I'm not down with those like really cool sounding thematic names for him in universe.
That was like Michael Myers, like that was like Michael Myers legend like territory right there. I was like, y'all didn't need to put that in there. I was like, yo,
like he was already scary.
Like,
they gotta make him like
scary, like
the methodical demon.
And then in the next one, is she in both of the next two? Because is she? I feel like. Yeah, I feel like she's around for a couple more movies, or maybe even the rest of them. I don't remember for sure.
Well,
yeah,
I'm glad we touched on Freddy. I know we got through the episode talking about the characters, but fantastic performance and character too. So that's it. This is our first season of Survivor's Ed. We had a lot of fun this whole season talking about all of these movies. If you're just catching this show for the first time through this episode, go back and watch the rest. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you can find podcasts pretty much. Please feel free to subscribe, follow, and share this around because we have some great guests this past season. We had really some great conversation. What comes next is within the next couple months, you'll start to see some fresh new content from us on our YouTube channel, some shorter kind of video essays, some cool stuff that we're working on. And then we'll have another season of Your Favorite Movies Racist. So now is the time to subscribe, to get caught up, to see all the conversations we're having. We'll also do some live streams. A lot is on the horizon. If you want to follow us on social media, we are 2BXM Podcasts on Instagram and TikTok. And otherwise, have fun, listening to us talk about movies. And please, if you're in the comments, suggest some movies for us to talk about because we love being introduced to new movies too.
Yes.
Tawny has introduced us to some varying levels of quality movies.
Bad movies. Yeah.
I'm gonna make you guys watch Teen Witch.
We'll see if we can top that. So this is it. Survivor's Ed, 2 Blacks and a Mexican. Stay safe.